So, Cleopatra. The story goes that she is the astoundingly beautiful queen of Egypt who mastered the art of seduction and used her wiles to gain power before eventually losing everything and ending her life in a dramatic suicide. That's the story we all know, the story that's been passed down throughout time and reinforced by practically every author, painter, and sculptor who ever envisioned the last pharaoh. However, contrary to popular belief, Cleopatra's story is rather less centered around sex and debauchery, and far more involved in the social and political events that shaped the final years of Egypt's independence in ancient history. In this video, we will discuss how Cleopatra's image has undergone many metamorphoses in the last 2 millennia since her death. We will attempt to show that the modern iconography of Cleopatra has come to paint an entirely different picture of the historical queen, one that is closer to fantasy than fact. Cleopatra was born into the Ptolemaic dynasty that ruled Egypt in the 300 years following the collapse of Alexander the Great's empire. Cleopatra's early life is worthy of its own documentary, but the long and short of it is that after her marriage to her brother Ptolemy XIII, she was exiled after a power struggle between the two and ingratiated herself to Julius Caesar by framing herself as a potential ally for the Roman general over her brother. Alongside Caesar, Cleopatra managed to take control of Egypt from her brother and ruled, using her other younger brother and later her son as co-rulers to justify a queen having power. Cleopatra's reign and power base expanded after Caesar's death when she met and began an affair with Marcus Antonius, which eventually led to Antonius leaving his Roman wife and marrying the Egyptian queen. Their romance did not last forever, however, as wars against the soon-to-be Emperor Octavian and the Parthians decimated their combined territories and led to both Antonius and Cleopatra's suicides after their death at the hands of Octavian. Artists, poets, playwrights, painters, and sculptors the world over have shaped Cleopatra's image after her death. Sources from antiquity focus less on Cleopatra's physical beauty and describe her as captivating, the ultimate conversationalist and debater. Over time, this image was altered for the most part in order to reconcile her character with late Roman Republican and early Roman imperial history. Paintings made based on that character are some of the most prolific pieces of iconography that feed into the fantasy. Cleopatra and Caesar by Jerome is a painting that depicts Cleopatra emerging from the carpet that, according to myth, was used by a servant to sneak her into Caesar's palace. The painting is an example of the prevailing image of Cleopatra as a master seductress, who stands barely clothed, ready to bring another man under her influence. Tadima is another painter trying to depict a famous scene of romance by the queen, painting Antony and Cleopatra meeting at Tarsus in 41 BCE. Cleopatra reclines on a boat, surrounded by finery and drawing Antonius' attention. She is what's important. A queen reclining and being served by those around her. In Shakespeare's play Antony and Cleopatra from 1607, Cleopatra is portrayed as a commanding presence. She not only controls Egypt, but also Antonius and even Caesar. Her role breaks the gender boundaries as it is more than just the average female role of being a good wife and mother to another character. Films and series from the last century have usually depicted Cleopatra as an exceptionally beautiful woman, who has used her beauty specifically to gain power. In the 1963 movie Cleopatra, she is portrayed by Elizabeth Taylor, who is seen as one of the most beautiful actresses of her time. Her character was also shown in rather revealing clothing, which also fed into the myth. Other media, like the 1999 miniseries Cleopatra, based on the historical fiction novel The Memories of Cleopatra, also contribute to the myth, though it also depicts her as a woman who would do anything for her future reign of her children and the men she loved. Cleopatra's image amongst the citizens she ruled over in Egypt is a source that we can be incredibly thankful for, as it gives us a less Rome-centric means through which to view her. However, even that is not free of Roman influence. It is said that most of the public statues of Antony and Cleopatra were destroyed by Octavian following their deaths. However, in his Life of Antony, Plutarch claims that the statues of Cleopatra were conserved thanks to her friend Achibios paying the emperor 2,000 talents to dissuade him from destroying many of hers. Be that as it may, some Egyptian as well as Roman examples of statues of Cleopatra have come down to us. They reveal to us both the Egyptian and Roman views of the Egyptian queen. We can see just how differently the portrayals go by looking at these Egyptian examples from the 1st century BC. They present Cleopatra in the traditional Egyptian style, which is quite static and void of individualistic features, but certain characteristics and the time of their creation indicate to us that the person portrayed is indeed Cleopatra. The statues are not focused on portraying Cleopatra as beautiful, but rather show her status as a strong ruler. Cleopatra also resembles Isis, a goddess with whom Cleopatra associated herself with throughout her reign. Cleopatra's association with Isis often symbolized motherhood rather than beauty and sexuality. Ancient coins minted during Cleopatra's reign probably reveal one of the most accurate representations of her, because she would have approved the portraits herself. As you can see, Cleopatra's facial features are rather distinct, but do not reflect the myth of her extraordinary beauty. While early depictions of Cleopatra, such as coinage and portraits, portray her without the goddess-like beauty that she would come to be known for, many later depictions, specifically those of the 18th and 19th century painters we have shown, present her with their own ideals of great beauty. But why? We've seen how the iconography has changed Cleopatra's character, but the question is, why did that change occur in the first place? One of the premier reasons for it actually came out of the wars between Octavian and Marcus Antonius following the split of the Roman Republic between the two of them. The Roman citizenry had been exhausted and had no desire to enter into further wars, so in order to shift the narrative and gain support, Octavian had to change the target of his criticism from Antonius, and as it happened, there was a foreign queen who Antonius had allied himself with and chosen to love, even over his own wife, who was also Octavian's sister. By shifting the blame for his wars from Antonius or himself over to Cleopatra, Octavian was able to convince the Roman citizenry to march with him against his rivals and defeat them. This new framing of her character became one of the centers of Roman propaganda, and later on, due to a lack of many other written sources and a pervasive dislike of powerful women by history, Cleopatra's role as seductress was firmly established, repeated, and then acted upon for the next 2 millennia. While history has begun to recognize the last pharaoh of Egypt as a shrewd politician and diplomat brought low by a worthy opponent in Octavian, in popular culture she will likely remain a symbol of sexuality and ruination for a long time to come. In the words of Stacey Schiff in her biography, Cleopatra a Life, what unsettled those who wrote her history was her independence of mind, the enterprising spirit.